Imagine the world's first great city rising along the shores of the ancient Persian Gulf, a walled center of learning, culture, and cooperation built to guide humanity's early progress. This city, known as Dalamatia, became the headquarters of the planetary administration and the birthplace of organized civilization. From here, councils were formed to teach everything from agriculture and animal domestication to sanitation, trade, education, art, and even revealed religion. In this segment, we'll step inside that remarkable experiment in planetary leadership and explore these tools that teachers used to help early humanity move from scattered tribes towards the beginning of civilization. So now we come into the nitty-gritty of this, how we had even a capital, we had people,
Yeah.
and we come in this sequence. First, we see that there's myths about these gods and these giants and people from the past, and then suddenly we start to see in history that civilization came from the Mid East, from the Middle East, from the Persian Gulf. That is where we kind of find history. So it all ties in. So what happened there when we had Dalmatia?
Yeah, I find Dalamatia and just the whole setup absolutely fascinating. Like I try to imagine it all the time. And especially now that I'm sort of making a series that's going to try and visualize it,
Hmm.
I'm actually spending time trying to figure out how I'm going to make it in 3D, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I spent a lot of time like really getting a picture of it in my mind. And so I can say a few things about the city quickly, I guess. Um,
Hmm.
as you said, it was constructed near the then headwaters of the Persian Gulf, and
Hmm.
those headwaters, they move a lot, especially over the period of 500,000 years. So it's really hard to figure out exactly where that was. But that's what they say, near the headwaters of the Persian Gulf. It
Okay.
was encircled by a 40-foot high wall. And I have built that wall in 3D and put a person there to compare, and it is massive. It is
Okay.
a massive wall, and it encircled the whole city. Um,
So you're
there's a
saying
part
that it was a
circular
wall that
city.
wasn't this, and I really don't know, but wasn't this something like what Plato talked about Atlantis, or is this something else, or am I getting
Okay,
ahead of?
well, I think that this city provided the template
Okay.
for other cities for a really long time. So when
Okay.
you look back at the oldest cities, the ruins of the oldest cities that you find in the Mesopotamian area, they're all
Hmm.
circular. It's not until
Okay.
later that they start taking other shapes like squares and things like that. So the oldest cities are actually circular. And it's
Oh, this is
interesting that
interesting.
mathematically, which
Yeah.
I'm not that very good at math, so I was told this, but um, a circle is the shape that requires the least amount of wall to build to encircle
Okay.
a city or an area. So that's probably one of the reasons why it was circular at the beginning.
Oh, this is
So,
interesting.
yeah.
Good.
So,
Okay.
and there's also using a circle to teach higher truths as well is probably
Yeah,
another
definitely.
reason they might have done that, right?
I
But
use I use the circle a lot, and yeah, there's a mystery in pi
yeah,
is there.
exactly.
But so
Exactly.
so what happens with Dalmatian, and I mean, guide us through this description.
Sorry, what do you mean? The
You were describing Dalmatian and
Yeah.
what was happening inside.
Yeah, so they they built this city, they built a huge wall around it for protection, from belligerent tribes and wild animals and all kinds of stuff. That was just what you had to do back in those days. And it also created a sense of awe as well among people because it was the first city no one had ever seen anything like that before. Um, it is said to have had space within the walls to support a population of 26,000 people.
Okay.
So I've done some measurements. It's actually quite interesting. Um, that would be approximately 2 kilometers in diameter.
Okay.
a circled city,
Okay.
based on ratios of agriculture to buildings.
Okay.
If you're doing about 50% agriculture and 50% buildings in a 2 kilometer diameter city, you're looking at a approximate population of about 26,000 people.
Okay.
So that's how I'm getting these figures, right?
Okay.
Um, for comparison, and I just wrote this note down because I thought it was really interesting. The old city of Jerusalem is only about 1 kilometer in diameter, one
Okay.
kilometer squared. So 2 kilometers in diameter is 314 hectares. Okay.
Okay.
1 kilometer squared is 100 hectares. So that's what
Okay.
the old city of Jerusalem was. It's about a third the area in terms of size as Old Jerusalem. And Old
Okay.
Jerusalem held approximately 20,000 people at its densest, at its most
Okay.
populated. This city that I found, Gore, is 3 times that size. And you can
Okay.
imagine what it would have felt like to walk into the gates of a city like that for people back in that time.
Especially in that
It,
time when and there wasn't anything even close to it or fifth of it. Nothing.
yeah, it would just be the most incredible, out of everybody's imagination thing that they had seen, and that was the city of the gods. And I think it's really interesting that when you look at, say, for example, Chinese legends, which go back
Mm-hmm.
really, really far as well, they always in their they have a foundational legend called Journey to the West. And
Okay.
the question is, why were they journeying to the west? Well, the west is where the city of the gods is, and
Definitely.
that's where Dalamatia is. So it all connects. It's
And
absolutely amazing. Yeah,
I'm familiar with a lot of the traditions from Mesoamerica and also from the native northern North America, and they also mention, but this time it's from the east, and there's
yeah,
the famous legend of Quetzalcoatl with the Spanish conquest. That Moctezuma thought it was him coming back, and it talks about this bearded and superhuman fellow that taught them everything and that he was going to return eventually. So we find these connections, and like we were saying, they all, if you dig deep in them, they are interconnected. We find
yeah,
in throughout history, the symbol of the flower of life throughout different
yeah,
civilizations, and along with other symbols that are throughout scattered. So this makes a lot of
yeah.
sense that it all came from a specific point.
Well, what we've done here is we've stepped back far enough to see how it actually all does connect, which I think is
Exactly.
absolutely amazing, right? But you have to step back 500,000 years for it to actually all connect, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely.
So
So, okay, go
the
ahead. Go ahead,
yeah, go ahead.
Eric.
Well, I was just going to
No,
get
no.
into the function of the city, but if you wanted
Yeah,
to say
that's
something, yeah,
that's what I wanted to get to because we see and we were talking about if we go back enough in time, we understand a lot of the origins and a lot of evolution and what happened with history. But I think a lot of human civilization as itself, the what it, the elements that constitute it, which we're going to be talking about, they suddenly spring out. But in this
yeah,
premise, and what we're talking about is that they were taught. It wasn't something that
yeah,
suddenly, which came out of our minds, but we were taught by somebody. And that's part of what we're saying, that there's these celestial agencies that are together with us, helping us. So lead us into this presentation, please.
cool. Okay. So this city by design was intended to be a means of teaching by example, right? So they
Okay.
they would attract people from neighboring tribes into the city and have those people stay and learn with them. And basically, their example was a highly functioning city. And the 100 or 200, um, they broke up into 10 different groups or councils,
Okay.
which covered all of the building blocks of civilization, which they
Okay.
came to bestow on humanity, right? Which is
Okay.
the wording of the legend. The Anunnaki came down from heaven to bestow the gods came down from heaven to bestow civilization upon mankind. So
Exactly.
this is the mechanics of how this actually happened, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
um, we have the names of the different councils that divided into. So we have, first of all, we have a council of food and material welfare,
Okay.
and that involved things like water, clothes, material advancement, things like that.
Okay.
The head of that council was named Ang. We have the name.
Okay. That's good.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. The second council was animal domestication and utilization. And so what we're talking about here is domesticating animals. This is where we first started domesticating animals. And we had divine help doing that. Um, so they helped selecting and breeding these animals that basically became the animals we have domesticated.
Okay.
And they helped decide which are the best animals, or the animals which are best adapted to help
Exactly.
humans,
And we look at it,
right?
there's been a cooperation with animals, throughout civilization. If it wasn't for horses, dogs, cows, and everything, human civilization that would not exist. Definitely.
Right. And so this council is most known for giving us the wheel,
Okay.
and it's also the head of this council. His name was Bon, Bon.
Okay.
He is famous for taming a specific massively huge bird called a fandor that we could actually ride. So just imagine that.
Yeah. And I
Um,
know this sounds pretty crazy, but
it
this
is,
this is something that we used to have, and we're talking about
yes.
500,000 years ago. I
They
mean,
died out.
think
Yeah,
they died out. Yeah.
yeah. But apparently, birds like that are very common on numerous inhabited worlds all over the place. It's a very common thing to have these passenger birds that you can actually fly on.
Awesome.
So, yeah, um, how awesome would that be?
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
um,
Shoot.
yeah, right.
Okay.
Um, the third council is for the conquest of predatory animals, the dangerous animals and the ones that couldn't be domesticated and presented
Hmm.
an obvious danger to inhabitants and tribes. The head of this was Dan, and that's basically what it was: is learning how to protect yourself from animals that couldn't be domesticated. So that's what
Okay.
they were doing. The next council was dissemination and conservation of knowledge,
Okay.
which incredibly important. And I think we failed at that numerous times throughout our civilizations yeah. I mean, the one that I'm still most upset about is the destruction of the Library of Alexandria.
Yeah, and this one.
So,
I mean,
yeah,
to kind of to maintain the knowledge, and we see, and we get to this point, and we see all the conflicts, let's say, that are
yeah,
due to lack of the knowledge and the gaps that we have in our history,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So they didn't just do that. I mean, the head of this, his name was Fad. They also supervised employment, and they instructed people on improving methods of labor. And they also, obviously, because it's knowledge, created the first alphabet on the planet.
Okay. Okay. This is
Yeah.
interesting because in knowledge and you're saying about employment, so it's linked to organization,
Yes.
as
Learning to
civilization
work
grows.
as groups. Yeah.
Exactly. And with the specialization of labor, this is very important because this is something that I learned when I was, going into university. And, when you look at industry and how specialized industry is and how, civilization is so, so, so intricately. connected and detailed, and
Yeah.
imagine from there where was, small tasks, small differentiation of labor. Nowadays, if you go into a corporation and you look at the different functions and the different levels, there are organisms working, and this is really
Yeah.
interesting. I think it's and this is something, we have a lot of currents and theories and economic, of battles between left and right and everything. But I think if we could solve this and understand that we can provide for everybody, and we can, through the resources and through this knowledge, everything, all the problems, material problems, can be solved. This is
Yeah.
really important.
Yeah. It's cooperation. That's all it is fundamentally, learning how to cooperate
Cooperation,
and work
exactly.
with other people. Yeah, exactly. There was another council. The fifth council was industry and trade,
Okay.
and that was presided over by an individual named Nod, who we will hear about quite a bit later. Basically, that council fostered industry within tribes and trade
Okay.
between tribes.
Okay.
So getting tribes to, start building up some sort of industry, and then once they had done that, start trading with other tribes and stuff like that. So again, it's learning how to cooperate and go back
No,
and
and
forth.
and
And
having peace, because one of the things that
yes,
avoids war, within tribes and then the countries eventually, is that you can trade. I mean, they have something, you have something, and if you trade together, you're going to benefit. So that's really important, in this,
and it promotes understanding between different groups
of
of
course.
people as well. Yeah,
Exactly. All
incredibly
the fruits
important
that
in that regard.
that bears. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Next, we have revealed religion, which was presided over by Hap. Um, that they actually taught the first form of the Father's Prayer.
Okay.
I don't have that written down at the moment, but it was pretty awesome.
Okay.
So fundamentally, what we're saying is they started learning about God and having that truth really revealed back 500,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We were learning about this. Obviously, things happened and we backslid, but we originally were imagine what it would be like now if things hadn't backslid.
Yeah. No, we
Yeah.
would understand a lot about God. There wouldn't be so many religious wars and conflicts, I believe, because we would understand the nature. And I think that's one of the things that Urantia book did to me, is that it took God beyond my personal interpretation and any institutional religion's personal interpretation, and really presented his magnanimity. And I got to understand that my interpretation is my piece of the puzzle, and as I shared with other people, that's it. But there is a structure, and
Yeah.
we just try to, get to terms and understanding it based on each other's individual interpretation. We're
Yeah.
never going to get anywhere, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And
All
just
right.
imagine as well what it would be like right now if this planetary administration in the city hadn't fallen. We would have
Yeah.
a history and tradition and civilizational foundation that goes back continuous with no breaks for
Continuity.
500,000 years.
Continuity. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Awesome.
strains credulity, like how different things would be,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway, um,
So what
so
that we have in this
we
place?
also have the Council of Health and Life. So we were taught how to take care of ourselves, sanitation and hygiene. Cooking, boiling, and roasting prevents illness. We were being taught that. That
Okay.
was presided over by Lut. And there's actually a desert in Iran called the Lut Desert, which I thought was
Okay.
quite interesting. It's
Yeah.
actually more famous now as one of the hottest places on earth, but Lut
Okay.
Desert. Um,
Yeah.
art and Science, the Council of Art and Science was presided over by Mech, and they improved industry. They started doing pottery and art. Uh, interestingly, think probably more towards about when the rebellion broke out, they were trying to introduce steam power, which
Okay.
says a lot to me in terms of how far that how far they had advanced. So the rebellion broke out 200,000 years ago. And if they were trying to introduce steam power 200,000 years ago, imagine where we'd be right now.
Oh, definitely.
Because we only started working with steam power in the late 1800s.
Yeah, nothing. If when you compare it in the chronological
Yeah.
existence of history. Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
So just let that percolate in your mind for a little while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what else we got? The Ninth Council was tribal relations.
Hmm.
That was presided over by Tut, and they were occupied with advancing society slowly. We're talking kind of politics here,
Okay.
uh, civil structures. They were over time they were trying to advance society from the tribe all the way up to the state.
Okay.
And then when the next bestowal comes along, Adam and Eve, they were supposed to implement democratic government in place of monarchies and things like that. So again, we're talking basically the transition. Well, we still have monarchies, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
how far along away
yeah,
should this have happened, and it hasn't?
exactly. Yeah. So
Okay.
we're pretty behind in a lot of respects. And the last council was the Supreme Court of Tribal Coordination and Racial Cooperation. It was basically the Supreme Court of all of the other councils.
Okay.
And it was presided over by Van, who we'll be hearing a lot about later as well. So
Okay.
it's like the Court
Awesome.
of Appeals for all of the other councils, basically.
Awesome.
So that's basically how they divided up in order to provide us with the initial tools and guidance for growing civilization on our planet.
I love this,
Yeah,
Derek, because you just laid this, and taking us back in history and these foundations that we know are there, but we really do not know how they just popped up.
yeah,
But here, what we're saying is that there was an organized cosmic or divine administration that was set up here that had this purpose of doing this, and that was part of the evolution.
yeah,
Uh, and we were given all this. And now we're
yeah,
going to get to, which is very interesting because we have had all of this. And in our next segment, we're going to find out what happened, why there was a fall. All right. So
yeah.
wait and enjoy. On the Divine Within podcast, we'll share real conversations to help you find a personal connection with God. My goal is to support your faith, growth, and journey toward discovering the divine within yourself. Join us to deepen your faith and spiritual journey.